Gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast, where we're about to get, Adam,
extreme.
Hey, I like it.
I went for it.
I like it. Welcome to episode 16, Adam. Does that sound right?
Is that 16? Wow.
I think so. Sixtreme. Nah.
Not so much.
Okie doke. How are you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks. How are you?
I'm alright, thanks. I am a little bit choked, but thanks to the wonders of flat row flow tests, I am COVID free, I believe.
Excellent.
So at least it's just germs from children.
Yeah, they still happen. You know, it's kind of one of those things people forget about.
Need to start wearing a face mask when putting them to bed at night and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really make them think I'm a member of the Foot Clan, something like that. Will you be partaking in watching a certain Euro semi-final whilst we are recording tonight?
So it's going to be on in the background. I'm going to try and not let it be the focus of my attention, because I don't really care that much who wins. I'd rather Italy win, to be honest, but I'm not that bothered. So I don't think I'm likely to cheer or cry or anything audible anyway.
Okay. Well, that's. I mean, a bit of drama might bring us some listens.
Yeah, you never know.
And just for the record, I just want to make clear that my solo episode where I escaped in my time machine and watched NXT now has the same number of listens as our last episode, so you can feel reassured by that. You can stop listening to the episode over and over again on your Spotify, Adam.
Yeah, I didn't want to think, I was dragging us down in some way. That would be. I'd just have to bow out. But if it's evening up, then that's fine. I'm obviously just having the impact is neither here nor there. By the sounds of it.
That's as good as it gets, really. So here we are in March 1998. I am starting to. I texted you the other day saying I can't stop thinking about what we're going to do after we've done 1998. I think I might be getting my head ahead of myself, just slightly, given how far we've come, and how far we've got to go.
Yeah, still a while to go here. Yeah.
But yeah, here we are in March 1998, and like you said, we're about to get. Extreme.
Yeah. I'm not sure that was quite as good as the. If you could just cut out the way I said it the first time and then put that in.
Leave that one in. Cool.
Yeah.
I do not have those skills, but okay. On a scale of, let me think. On a scale of Michael Cole to New Jack, how extreme are you, Adam?
As a person, I'm definitely closer to Michael Cole on that scale. I'm definitely nowhere near New Jack level. What about you?
Yeah, definitely a coal miner.
Yeah,
but let's just leave it at watching the extreme and rather than participating in the extreme. Nobody wants to watch a dark side of the ring about podcasters.
No,
am I right?
Yeah, and we're there's a reason it's middle-aged outlaws. That's.
Leave the extremities to the young whippersnappers. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, they can bounce back. I'm just not sure we could.
It's very true. He says sitting drinking coffee and thinking, is this too late to be drinking coffee? 10 to 8 at night. So here we are, March 1998. We're here for our first ECW pay-per-view of the year, and we were both very excited to watch it, weren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I didn't really watch much. At the time, I was nowhere near anything ECW, and then it's the kind of thing you hear about as you go because you've got an interest in WWF, WWE, WCW, and then it sort of became more familiar with it as the years went on, but a little bit after the event, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then I've still got memories. I can't remember what show it was, but you gave me one of the pay-per-views on, it was probably a DVD, I would have thought, and I watched it and I was like, what is this? And then now that the network's there, it's all, available to watch, and it's quite exciting to look at something that does really have a different feel to it.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think that was a guilty as charged pay-per-view that got passed around all us, and we all enjoyed a bit of craziness.
Yeah.
How did you? Or shall we just jump into? I was going to say, how did you enjoy this? But shall we just jump straight into the kind of build up, the ECW Hardcore TV from the night before?
Yeah, let's go for it, because there's what was it, 47 minutes or something like that, and it was so, I just found it really refreshing to watch something that was kind of in this neat package of that amount of time. And it'll be because of the length of it and all that, but it didn't drag. It felt like this is the go home show, kind of went through a lot of the central storylines that were on the go that were going to be covered in the pay-per-view. It didn't feel like there was an awful lot of space for anything extra. It was kind of all about the business side of selling the pay-per-view, and giving you a little bit of backstory, so it flew past for me.
It was great. It was like a kind of bite size. It was almost like a build up show. The UFC does these kind of shows before the pay per view, and it sets out the rivalries and the fights and all that. It was kind of a bit like that. It was perfect.
Yeah.
If WWF and WCW could do this for us in advance of the rest of these 1998 pay per views, that'd be excellent. So to start off with our ECW Hardcore TV episode, we got a lovely dedication to Louis Piccoli, who we spoke about in the last episode, who had passed away, I assume, round about the taping of this episode ECW.
Yeah.
He had, I think he'd maybe started off there, or certainly it had been a rung on the ladder before he got to WCW, and we got a nice sort of thing with all the wrestlers in the ring from the back, and we get Heyman doing what he does best, really, and a nice speech about Spicoli.
Yeah, it came across as pretty genuine. He was saying basically it doesn't matter whether someone that was with us has now moved to another company or did then move to another company. If you're ECW, you're ECW for life. And I think he it came across as that way, that if somebody had been there, they would forever be remembered as being one of them.
Yeah.
So I thought it came across really well, actually.
Yeah, it did. From there we move on to a promo from the faction The Triple Threat, which is made up of Shane Douglas, who at this point in time is ECW champion. ECW World Champion. Bam Bam Bigelow, who is feuding with Taz for the ECW television title. And Chris Candido, who is one half of the tag team champions. So we've got your kind of high level faction, and joining them is Chris Candido's fiance at this time, Sunny, and Francine, I think. Yeah,
that's right.
We get a whole lot of I think I texted you saying Triple H totally stole his game persona from Shane Douglas, and apparently it's a thing, but he definitely reminded me of Triple H here. Did you feel the same?
Yeah, I did. I hadn't seen a huge amount of Shane Douglas doing promos and segments and things like that. I was aware that he was a staple. I think at this point he'd been there, had been the sort of the first official ECW heavyweight champion, then he'd left and then he'd come back.
Right.
But I didn't see him as this, guy with a lot of charisma, a lot of personality, pretty good on the mic, a good heel. And I was impressed. I enjoyed it. There are a lot of similarities with various elements of Triple H's character. But yeah, I thought he was really, really strong. He came across really strong, because I always thought, he's fine, he's pretty good in the ring, but I hadn't really seen this side of him.
Yeah. No, it definitely came across like a guy that's right at the top of the company and could sort of carry it.
Yeah.
So we're kind of building up. So what we've got at the pay-per-view at Living Dangerously is we're going to have the tag team champions on either side, and they're getting to pick their dream partner. Oh, was that your call from I'm trying to think of somebody in WWE. Never mind. So we've got our tag team partners. They're going to pick their dream partner, and Chris Candido is obviously in this faction with the champion Shane Douglas. So he picks Shane Douglas.
Yep.
Sonny, I was thinking about this, right? So Sonny is supposed to be engaged to Chris Candido here, right?
Yes.
And she's still employed by WWE, WWF, and obviously on the other shows we've been talking about her, and she's I'm getting her mixed up with Sable. I was going to say she's involved in a storyline with Mark Merrow.
No, so I think
that's terrible.
All Sonny's really doing is she's going out and like refereeing.
That's right.
Little person matches, and she's just doing ring announcing for the cruiserweights as well.
Yes,
but
yes.
I don't know that she's really got any sort of firm storyline with another. I think she's a little bit involved in the Taka and Brian Christopher story, but not to any great extent.
She's maybe involved in a backstage storyline with Shawn Mike.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Sonny says to Chris Candido that she knows who Lance Storm, I don't know if we've said that Lance Storm is the other tag team champion.
Yeah.
She knows who Lance Storm's partner is, and it all seems very like sort of collaborative, and she's going to tell him, and then she sort of turns and goes, "Oh, why would I tell you?" Which is a little bit odd. She's never been claimed to be the best actress in the world, has she?
Yeah, it felt a bit odd. It felt a bit forced, and like they just wanted to have a little bit of drama between them, and they talk quite a lot about their personal life and things like that.
I found it a little bit uncomfortable. I think I texted you.
Well, I feel like on this show, and I can't remember the exact wording, there was maybe an indication that he was abusive, and then they turn it round for a later confrontation between them, and it comes across that she's maybe abusive to him. But you never get much detail or clarity or anything like that. Do you know what I should have said? I should have said that phone when it was ringing was Lance Storm asking if I would be his partner.
Oh man, should we delete this stuff and go back? So I think at that point it's kind of left in the air as to who is Lance Storm's partner going to be. Nobody really knows. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Sonny's kind of in a bit of an altercation with all of them. There's a bit of shoving between her and Francine. Candido's very unhappy with her. Bam Bam keeps them apart and then lifts her out the ring and carries her off. But yeah, you're left. I think originally in the segment, Candido comes across as quite confident. He's got the best as his partner and all that, and then they sort of turn it a little bit where he actually comes across as really insecure and needs to know who the partner's going to be. I've not. He's another guy that I hadn't seen an awful lot of in terms of mic work and things like that. I know he had his tag team runs in WWE, but he's sort of playing this slightly cowardly heel. I found him pretty entertaining doing it.
So did I, actually. I'm the same as you. I hadn't really seen him a whole lot, but I did enjoy what he was doing. So after all this stuff, we get a match. We get Taz versus a man called Brackus, who we are led to believe is employed by WWF. He's brought out with a gentleman called Mr. Wright, who seems to be some sort of WWF shill, seems to be his character.
Is
that an offensive word? No.
I don't think so.
Cool.
I hope not. You'll soon hear about it if it is.
So yeah, I mean, there's not much to this. Taz beats him up. The crowd are giving. This guy's gigantic. He looks a bit like what Brian Cage looks like on AEW. The crowd are giving it steroids, which is quite funny.
Yeah, I wrote that he just looks a bit ridiculous. And they mention he's got a bodybuilder background, right. I think they play off as that, that's why Vince and the WWF would love him,
which is
he's got
100% true.
Absolutely.
We get a weird thing where we get still images of a First Blood match that Just Incredible and Tommy Dreamer had. Tommy Dreamer does a weird promo in the dark, which I never really bought. Sorry, Tommy, but that is not convincing at all. I always found Tommy Dreamer to be quite sort of cheesy when it came to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they're kind of playing a little bit of a weird angle here. They keep talking actually about Just Incredible as a guy who the company gave a chance to, and he's been intentionally injuring people to move himself on his way up the card. And then there's some sort of debate, I think, about whether Beulah is going to be in the corner of Tommy Dreamer, and they talk about the fact he gave her a pile driver once before and that aligned her with him.
Yeah, that was weird. And
then they say that as part of the build-up for this, I think Just Incredible has given her a pile driver.
Yeah.
I don't know what sort of character she's being, but maybe somebody who goes in the corner to somebody who's given her a pile driver. Who knows?
That's a gimmick.
Yeah.
Treat them mean, keep them keen. That's what Just Incredible says.
Yeah. He's another guy. I didn't really know much about him, but I've definitely seen a couple of matches that he's been in. I've seen quite a bit of Tommy Dreamer stuff because I think he was basically on every ECW pay-per-view, I think, and he always seemed to be somebody who was quite high on the card but never quite right at the top. I enjoyed his matches. Again, similar to you, I'm not sure he was the best promo around.
I really like Just Incredible. I think I always liked him. I think by the time I was watching ECW, he was kind of on top. I don't know if he was champion,
right.
But he seemed to be one of the sort of main guys. I don't know who could forget X Factor, Adam, with Albert, X-Pac and Just Incredible.
Well, I did, but that's it back in my mind now. I'll have to go back and watch some of their stuff.
Oh, you won't be disappointed. We finish off this episode match wise anyway, or ring wise, with a match between the tag team champions Storm and Candido, which is sort of short and sweet. We get a lot of Let's Go Sonny chants. That was a bit the highlight here. I've not much to say about this, to be honest with you.
No, it was entertaining enough. You had the sort of natural, these two guys are tag partners but don't get on and they're feuding with each other storyline to it. They made a big deal out of the fact Lance Storm used Chris Candido's move, the blonde bombshell, which is named after Sonny. And there's quite a lot of speculation in match and all that about who the partner's going to be for the pay-per-view on the Sunday. It was fine. It was to try and move the story along a bit.
Yeah, and it did that.
Yeah.
So the programme finishes off with a promo from New Jack, which I assume was to be portrayed to be in the hood.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He promises us that we'll get violence at its highest level, which I never doubted.
Yeah.
We then get like a kind of build-up package of the feud between Bam Bam Bigelow and Taz, which is really good.
Yeah.
They seem to have been aligned in the past, and Bam Bam eventually screwed him over to join up with the Triple Threat team.
Yeah.
So that's how we've come come to this match. So, like we said earlier, it does a really good job of building us up and getting us ready to watch this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think I said to you after I'd watched it that it covered pretty much every match on the card. They do mention things like, I think on that show, the Two Cold Scorpio and RVD match was announced, so it's like that one was added. But the only match that I kind of felt like I was going into a little bit blind after watching that show was the Sandman and Sabu one, because I don't think it was really mentioned.
No reference, no.
Yeah, but everything else, you kind of got an update in terms of where you are, and why these people are having a match, which is what you want when you're just dipping into something, really.
Yeah, agreed. So here we are, ECW, living dangerously is the word. We're in Asbury Park, New Jersey, which is apparently the backyard of Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yep.
For some reason, I always thought that it was from Chicago. I don't know why I thought that, but there we go. Okay. Learned something new. Yeah. And this, much like how the Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow, the video package finished off the programme, we open up the pay-per-view with Taz walking into the empty arena, and just looking around and saying he's ready to himself, and it feels like we're building Taz versus Bam Bam to be the kind of centrepiece of this pay-per-view, although it's not the main event.
Yeah, I don't know if this was just me or if it's too much WWF and WCW, but I was just waiting for some kind of sneak attack. And then, because he arrives and it's dark and there's no one around, and then he's walking into the building, there's nobody else there. But yeah, it just was what it was. It seemed to be him mentally preparing himself and things like that.
I don't know if we've maybe not felt the full impact of the Bam Bam Taz storyline from only just picking it up. Maybe there's a bit more to it than what it felt like.
Yeah, possibly. Yep.
So we kick off with the FBI, the fully blooded Italians. We've got Little Guido, who I don't know if you're aware of before, Adam, were you?
I was. I think he was I recognised the other names, but he was the only one that I thought, I've seen plenty of this guy over the years, because he had a role in WWF after.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he was basically a tag team guy, but he was used pretty heavily. I think he would normally be an opening match or early on the card thing.
Right. He is tagging with his tag partner Tracy Smothers, who is quite the character.
Yeah, he was. I knew the name when I heard it, and I thought he's maybe been in WCW or somewhere like that. But
he's got WCW written all over him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Take of that what you will. So these two, the whole gimmick is that Little Guido is Italian blooded, but the other guys clearly are not, and they do all these sort of Italian gesticulations. There's another guy with them, I didn't catch his name, but he seems to be like their manager or something like that.
Tommy Rich.
Okay.
Tommy Rich, yeah. Again, it's a name that I recognised, but I couldn't tell you where from or where he'd been.
So they're taking on two Create a Wrestler characters from SmackDown versus Raw. No, they're taking on Jerry Lynn, a young Jerry Lynn who's still wrestling in AEW, and a gentleman called Chris Chetty. And we're told that Chetty seems to be, I didn't write it down, but he seems to, they're talking about him being the product of some sort of I don't know if the ECW got their own development.
They said he was the first graduate of the House of Hardcore.
There you go.
So
wow, what a title.
I assume that was their development area. But yeah, he was. It wasn't a name that rang a bell for me, so I'm not sure he went much further.
I think this could have been the heights for him.
It might have been, yeah.
I did Google him to see if he'd maybe appeared under a mask elsewhere, but I didn't recognise anywhere else that he'd been. So.
Okay.
I did think he was a really good technical wrestler, actually.
Yeah, he was, and there was quite a bit of that in this match, actually, which was, I suppose we talk about styles in WCW with them getting off to a fast start and that type of thing. It felt like this got off to quite a technical start, which is a little bit surprising for an ECW show.
Yeah, I think I was intrigued to start off with, and then very sort of quickly into this match, the fans I think they might start a boring chant. They're certainly booing.
Yeah.
And I was starting to question why on earth they started their show with this match.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it was needed.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I know that through the years they often did have a lot of very skilled technical wrestlers on their roster, and I don't know if they always made a point of having a match that was more that way, because some fans will want to see that. But yeah, it I don't know if it went too long. I was just looking up how long it went. It's like 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes. It felt longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've seen just you know, like to jump on what you're saying there, I've seen ECW events kick off with like Tajiri, Jericho, Guerrero, Lance Storm, and they've been really good technical matches, and the crowd are totally into them. Yeah, they love them. I felt like this didn't really know what it wanted to do, between that Tracy Smothers running about doing all these Italian gesticulating and Lynn and Chetty clearly were good technical wrestlers. It was just a bit odd. A couple of sort of bigger spots in this. Jerry Lynn dives to the top rope and hits both guys on the outside, kind of gets the fans on side. Apart from that, the FBI isolate Chetty for quite a long period, sort of normal tag team affair really. And your man, what did you say his name was? The fake Dusty Rhodes character that's on the outside? Tommy Rich ends up hitting, I think maybe Smothers with their Italian flag by mistake, and Jerry Lynn gets the pin, and interesting start. Not the greatest of starts. Yeah, it was fine. But it was fine. You're right.
It dragged a wee bit, and then it seemed like they wanted to have some sort of, you know, dissension in the FBI, and that was kind of the takeaway story that was going on, and maybe they just wanted to get the Chetty, the young guy, some experience on a pay-per-view.
True.
So yeah, I can see it having a place. It just, the crowd weren't into it enough, really.
Nah, and certainly part of these ECW events is, you know, the crowd's as big a character as anybody else. The crowds are amazing. So talking about Dragon, we get our second match of the evening. We get Doug Furnace and Masato Tanaka, and from what we're told, Tanaka was supposed to be fighting someone else, but this Mr. Right guy comes out again, and I think he says that Vince McMahon has bought the other guy's contract or something like that. It was I could never tell if they actually intended to have the original match, because it was Yukihiro Kanemura, his name was. And whether he's maybe no-showed or whether this was always the plan, I'm not sure. And it does play in with the storyline they've got on the go, because it's obvious at this time, you know, Vince is helping finance ECW, and he's at times lending some of his talent to go on their shows. We've seen Sonny. We know that there's a few others that pop about, and they're playing up on it with an angle and with having a mouthpiece and all that, and having Doug Furnace on the shows, and it feels like it's to get a lot of heat from the crowd, you know, and he actually name checks. It's Lance Wright, isn't it? And he ends up name checking at the end of this a few of the bigwigs in WWF at the time, who he's going to report back to, because Furnace is close but he's not a winner, and that's right.
He gets very annoyed with him at the end of the match, which he's lost, and he mentions JR, he mentions Bruce Pritchard, he mentions Vince McMahon, and he's going to make sure that Furnace never works on Raw again.
So what does Big Doug do?
Well, Lance Wright just keeps getting in his face, and basically won't let him walk away. This is a big guy, you know. That's probably an understatement. And then there's a clothesline to poor Lance Wright, and it hits him pretty hard. And then Furnace goes out onto the outside of the ring, and I couldn't work out who it was he took an ECW shirt from. Someone ringside, staff, someone like that. And he tells calls Lance Wright an errand boy, tells him to go and tell Vince to kiss his ass, and then Furnace puts on the ECW shirt and walks out, and him putting on the shirt actually got a better reaction from the crowd than I thought it might have,
given what they've just watched.
Yeah, there's nothing about him that screams ECW. Furnace. No, exactly. No, he's certainly not dripping with charisma. No.
This match, I would say the big takeaway for this match was that every time they botched or made a mess of some of the crowd or on top of them, like it's so fast. There's no room for learning here. The chemistry was murder.
Yeah, it was a bad match.
It was. Sorry, Doug. Sorry, Masato. Hope not to see you again. However,
what did you make of? That's all right. What did you make of this? I've obviously seen it before, because I imagine they're all like this. But both on the TV and on the pay-per-view, you've got Joey Styles doing the commentary on his own, which is something so different to what we're used to in other companies. But he also kind of does the links and all that. It goes to him in his little space where he's, I assume, doing the announcing from, and he's kind of linking the show together. Because we've got him just here talking about the fact that the pay-per-view networks aren't going to allow them to show the Sabu v Sandman match, which they reference had been taped earlier. They're not going to allow them to show it on pay-per-view, but they're going to make sure they can show it on the home video and as much as they're allowed on TV. But I just found it so, there's so many people in a WWF production. There's the commentators, there's the ring announcers, there's guys doing interviews in between and all that, but it feels like it's all Joey Styles.
I like it. I like the way that he links the pay-per-view, and it kind of feels like, I think if you looked at it on paper you might think, well, that's going to get a bit overbearing, you're basically hearing his voice, but he's kind of like the narrator, sitting with you, talking you through what we're getting next. I liked it.
Yeah, I do as well. I can't imagine. I know he went to WWF and then he was on Raw for a while as lead announcer, and then I think when they tried to do the ECW WWECW shows, he was moved to that, but he had, I think it was Taz working with him on commentary, because they obviously didn't want a one-man announcer team and all that, but with this product it just kind of worked.
I think so. Just kind of going off on a tangent there very quickly, I was listening to Cornette, as I tend to do, and he was talking about reviewing a SmackDown that he'd watched, and was saying that right at the start of the show, I think somebody had come out and cut a promo, somebody had come out and interrupted it, and then two more had come out and they'd said, well, we're getting a tag team match tonight as part of their promos, and he was saying you need someone taking you through that rather than letting the wrestlers do it, because it just sounds scripted. So like, I don't know, who did we, like if we had the FBI coming out and cut a promo and say, well, we're going to have a tag match, he was saying if you had somebody teeing it up and telling you why they're having a tag match and giving you the background behind it, it comes across a lot better, which links to what you're saying about Styles, and I liked it. I don't know if it would work on its own. I didn't ever think like he's missing somebody else on commentary or anything like that.
No.
Just when he did that squeaky, oh my god. Just wish they hadn't done that. But apart from that, it was good. Let me see. So next up we had the whole effing show, Mr. Monday Night, RVD, Rob Van Dam against Cold Scorpio, who is also known as Flash Funk in the WWF. I'm not sure if he was like actually on the WWF roster at this point.
Yeah, I know. I remember it was mentioned in might have been the Rise and Fall of ECW, that he was a guy that Vince took and he basically paid to make up a difference because there was a sponsorship deal or something like that Scorpio brought in quite a bit of money to ECW for, and it wasn't just losing the talent, it was losing that income that Heyman mentioned.
Right.
But I don't know in terms of the timeline whether that's happened yet or whether that's a little bit down the line from here, because I can't even remember when they went out of business. Was it 01? Was it?
Like literally just before, I think, the invasion and all that happened.
Okay.
So what? Yeah, this match is. When I looked at this before, started watching this and looked at Wikipedia and saw that this match was on for 30 minutes, it's a bit like, oh my god, I don't know if I'm going to get through that. RVD's a heel here. He seems to be he's not necessarily in a stable with Sabu, but Bill Alfonso, his manager, is also the manager of Sabu. And they're both coming across as heels. I loved RVD as a heel here. I think it showed a bit more of his charisma than he normally, or certainly in his run in WWF, I think he showed a lot more charisma here as a heel. Yeah,
agreed. The only thing that I didn't like about the RVD package here, and I quite liked that there was the fact that Bill Alfonso existed. He seemed quite good in the role, but
I liked him.
His whistling all the way through the match, it was driving me mad.
This I have got a lot of notes for this match. This match is incredible. If Too Cold Scorpio Flash Funk wasn't being used by WWF, I was kind of like thinking, why on earth? He was brilliant.
This is a great match, and it didn't. We talk about the fact what an 8-minute match at the start felt like it was dragging, but in this case, almost half-hour match didn't. So it just shows the difference. Yeah, and I'd never ever got the feeling, because I think in WWF or WWE at a point, RVD's matches became a bit like, we've talked about guys before, a bit like Flair, and other people. Like, you get their spots and you get the same spots every single match, and you knew what you were getting. But I did not feel like this at all. I think because there's that unpredictability of an ECW, when it spills out of the ring, you just don't really know where it's going to go. Shall we talk some highlights of this? Rather than talk through it, because we could be here for the half an hour otherwise. So at one point, quite early on in the match, Too Cold Scorpio hits RVD with a kind of like a jackknife powerbomb, an absolutely brutal powerbomb, and from there he kind of takes control of the match. So we get, I think, Too Cold Scorpio's doing all these fantastic moves, right? And then he goes up to the top rope and does like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I think it's the finisher that Alexa Bliss uses. It just kind of like, it's like a splash, but he jumps 180 in the air and it looks rubbish. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what splash I'm talking about? I remember the moment in the match, and it's funny, I didn't put this in my notes, but after everything else he's done, it's pretty underwhelming when he goes for that.
And he sort of tries that to be, he uses that as his kind of way to finish off the match, but RVD kicks out. He then hits a moonsault, which is class. And RVD kicks out that. RVD sort of manages to sort of scramble back into a position where he's able to hit the 5-star frog splash, but he hits it right onto Too Cold Scorpio's knees. And this is where they spill to the outside. This is where I love Bill Alfonso's contribution, because he gets the chair, and you know, like, he's really good at, like, I don't know, like dictating where they're going. He gets the chair, gives it to RVD, and that move where Van Damme throws the chair to Too Cold Scorpio, catches it and then hits it with a spin kick is really cool. I think they call it Van Damme air. Then we get a fucking pile driver. on the stage. I thought he was going to jackknife powerbomb him again. It's like, what? No. I think he hits two pile drivers on the stage. Too Cold Scorpio hits 2 pile drivers on the stage.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm so used to pile drivers not being a thing because, I think, to be honest, in WWF, probably after what happened with Austin, they weren't used regularly, and I cannot remember the last time I saw 2 in one match.
Oh, it's horrendous. I'm just thinking, he hits a pile driver on the stage, and it's not a second pile, it's a tombstone he hits him with, but he jumps.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a jumping tombstone. What the hell? It's crazy. It's class, though.
It looks great, yeah, but you do worry seeing things like that.
RVD seems fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's no dealing.
When you're that relaxed, you're probably able to take some punishment like that, and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Too Cold Scorpio hits another one of these ridiculous power bombs inside, and then hits his 450 splash, which again is really impressive. I think he hits it from standing on the outside, swinging off the ropes from the apron outside in, which is great.
Yeah.
Eventually, when it looks like Too Cold Scorpio has got the match won, Sabu enters the fray. Does his classic leg drop off the top rope with a chair underneath his leg. He just seems to float through the air. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
He hits him with that. Too Cold Scorpio kicks out after RVD sort of falls back over on top of him. Then we get the beautifully coordinated Sandman appears out of nowhere and sort of chases Sabu round and round the ring in classic Benny Hill manner, and then they both disappear. Then sort of out of nowhere, we've kind of flew through this match given what we're saying, but out of nowhere RVD comes off the ropes and sort of does some sort of flying body scissors and rolls Too Cold Scorpio up, a beautiful roll up.
Yep.
And gets a surprise 1, 2, 3 win.
Yeah, it was good. There's so much in it, there's so much in the match. There's definitely a moment, it might have been right at the end of the match, where Joey Styles makes a point of saying, now that's wrestling.
Love it. Did he really? That's class.
Yeah, and I think we talked earlier about the fact that the fans, much as they want to see their blood and guts, they like seeing a good wrestling match as well, and they absolutely got it here. And there's a little bit of back and forth between RVD and Scorpio after the match, which is, I found RVD's heel cheek in what he was saying really good, because basically it felt like Scorpio dominated like 80% of the match at least. And then RVD said that Scorpio gave him a great match, but he kicked his ass. And then he gave Scorpio the chance to shake his hand. Scorpio says, I'm more of a man than you'll ever be, Mr. Monday Night. Scorpio does raise hands with RVD and then blindsides him, but Sabu makes the save.
He smashes him with a clothesline, doesn't he?
Yeah, they bring a table in, place Scorpio on it, he and RVD climb the ropes, Sandman makes the save. Sandman hit was it a hurricanrana he hit from the top rope?
Yeah.
But he misses the table. Well, Sabu misses the table. So the table's just kind of nudged a little bit into the middle. Obviously, I think the plan was that he would go through it, but I never thought I would see Sandman hitting a move like that.
I've wrote here, Sandman inexplicably hurricanranas Sabu off the top rope, only onto part of the table, and clearly hurts himself.
Yeah.
He looks like he proper ruins his shin. And it's so clumsy.
This is, I think, the moment where I thought, I wonder if Scorpio is in WWE at this point, because he says that he loves ECW and he and Sandman kind of celebrate, and I thought that maybe resonates more if he's already made the move. But you've got the only thing, and I really enjoyed this, I thought it was great, they've sort of hyped the violence in this Sabu Sandman match, which has already taken place and been taped earlier, but they've both ran in, so they're obviously both fine.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was the only thing that I felt was a little bit of a negative about it. If their match had been later on the card or something like that, then absolutely fine, no issue with it. But it's just the fact that they'd built up that it must be incredibly violent because the pay-per-view networks weren't going to let them show it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never even thought about that. I did like Sandman's dancing here. Two Cold Scorpios got some good moves.
Yeah.
And they share a beer and Sandman's try to dance with him. It's quite funny.
Nice.
Next match, talk to me about put my teeth back in. Talk to me about how much you enjoyed the entrances for the Dudleys, or the introductions of the Dudleys.
Okay, so Joel Gardner, it just really makes me laugh. He always seems to go pretty offensive in his introductions, and he talks about, initially I think, about Big Dick Dudley taking liberties with someone in the crowd's mother.
The gentleman in the crowd was certainly working himself into a shoot. He was getting very excited.
And says he's now recognised as your father.
That's class. Brilliant.
He says something about, I'm like milk, I do the body good, or something like that.
Yeah.
And he calls himself, and I'm sure he's used this a few times, the quintessential stud muffin, which is just brilliant. And what's the last bit I've got written down? Your girlfriend has me on speed dial because she loved the way I star 69'd her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just...
what a poet.
I find them hilarious, and I know it's really immature and all that, but it just makes me laugh every time I hear him speak.
I think I would normally just be like, oh, for God, like this went on for, I don't know, like 8 to 10 minutes, the introductions. I think normally I'd have just been like, come on, girl, but I found it really funny. This whole thing about Devon Dudley being a cruiserweight. They're getting on top of him because he's starting to announce him as like 200 and something, and they're like, hey.
Like that being announced as
160 or something.
160, something totally ridiculous.
I found it interesting that Devon was doing all the Testify stuff and all that, even back here.
Yeah, and it made me wonder, because they had, who was the other guy they had? Was it Sign Guy Dudley?
Yeah, Sign Guy Dudley. Yeah. He was good to me.
And but obviously when they brought them into WWF, they, I think, just wanted the two, and they're the team that are doing the working and things like that. But I wonder if there was ever a moment from Vince where he thought, Joel Gardner, bring him in.
He screams sort of sports entertainment. Just tone it down. Maybe even a bit. Not even need to tone it down, given what they were doing.
Yeah,
it's odd, isn't it? And that big, like Big Dick Dudley, as well. I don't know if he was a wrestler eventually or whatever, but
I mean, he's massive.
Big guy, like
yeah,
he is Big Dick.
Yep.
So this was a 3-way dance for some sort of. So a 3-way dance in ECW is an elimination tag team match, I think. So we had the Dudleys versus Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten versus Spike Dudley, Little Spike Dudley, and New Jack. Balls and Axel come out, and they're not hanging about. They've both got their, what were they called? The chair swinging maniacs or something like that.
Hardcore chair swinging freaks.
Yeah, amazing. Sounds like something from Mad Max or something. So they come out. They seem to be popular with the fans, I guess, because they plant people with chairs. And the Dudleys aren't hanging about. We get the Dudleys and Balls and Axel going at it. Bubba starts things off as they mean to go on by absolutely smashing Balls Mahoney with a chair right at the start. It's absolute chaos.
Oh, it's brutal, some of this.
Absolutely. Then you get the music kicking in, and unfortunately for us, we're getting some sort of generic gangster rap song dubbed over what should be New Jack and Spike Dudley's music, which is Natural Born Killers by Dr. Dre and Ice Cube. And you were telling me that that during New Jack matches, his music normally just plays the whole match.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a every match thing, but I've definitely seen it happen before, because I was saying to you, I didn't mind it. I didn't know what song it was supposed to be. Like you say, it was a pretty generic, you know, hip-hop track that was playing. They've obviously not splashed out for Dre and Ice Cube, but I thought it did just make his matches feel a little bit different. The fact the music is playing when they come out, and it just continues to play all through the match, because this match had become messy very quickly.
As soon as they come out, it's just absolute madness.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of a wrestler New Jack ever really was. I know, you know, there's a lot of swinging of weapons and things like that, and I know Spike, just every single match seemed to take a hell of a beating. That was just his thing, and somehow always survived it, because some of it just, he's compared to everyone else that's always in there, he just looks so wee, and he's obviously easy for people to throw about and things like that, but it is a mess of a match. It's a total mess. I often hear, if you ever listen to Bruce Pritchard talking on his podcast, this is the kind of reason he just didn't rate ECW, and he knows they had matches like, you know, Guerrero and Benoit and stuff like that, but he can't get past this, just these car crash matches, and I think it's often put back to him, well, you guys tried to steal that, you just didn't do it very well, you know. And it's, you know, it's a fair point, but I did at times just find this a little bit hard to watch. You know, everything, it's just a total mess.
It is. And it's all kind of, if we're talking about one bit of the match, if it's all kind of built around, as they spill into the crowd, you've got the three teams going at it, and suddenly Spike and New Jack appear on top of the balcony, and both Dudleys are put on tables. Yeah, Spike and New Jack dive off the balconies and hit the Dudleys, both of them, and go through tables, and they just rattle off the floor. Like, that's clearly a concrete floor with nothing between them. They're flat. Oh God, it's horrendous.
It looks spectacular.
Oh, it does. It does.
Before we actually watched this show, I was looking for a gift to send you, and I think I just typed in "living dangerously" into the gift thing, and it's actually, the gift is Spike and New Jack throwing themselves off the balcony and through the tables, but we didn't know for sure that it was on this show until I think once the match started, I started thinking,
this could be it.
Yeah,
it's mad. It's crazy. Like, we've seen Jeff Hardy do crazy things. I'm immediately thinking of Madison Square Garden 2000 Royal Rumble, where he jumps off the balcony and does a swanton, I think, through a table on Bubba Ray Dudley. But this is nothing like that. This is like your mate climbing up a wall. I don't know, climbing up Tesco wall and jumping off on a Saturday night when they've had a few too many, and just rattling their head off the concrete. It's absolutely mental. You do wonder, as you're watching it, there's obviously people who've suffered long-term things and all that, but how everyone in this match is actually able to walk away from the end of the match. It seems crazy, because it's just, it looks amazing, but it's horrendous. You know, it's all in one package. It looks brilliant, but it's terrifying. Yeah, like we eventually get back to the ring, and the next thing you know, pretty soon after this, Spike Dudley's doing one of his bulldogs off the, you know, these run up the rope bulldog. I'm like, how's he there? I assumed that was them going to be out of the match.
Yeah.
But we get back to the ring, and Balls Mahoney gets 3D'd. They're eliminated.
Yep. Spike
and New Jack hit the Dudleys with guitars, which I don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
One of them looked like a gimmicked guitar. One of them didn't. Well, funnily enough, the one that New Jack was swinging. Spike hits a bulldog, and New Jack and Spike win. But this is all about that balcony spot. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And rest in peace to New Jack. Enjoyed this. Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. But I can see why people wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I imagine that there's probably different groups of people. There's some people that'll be like, I'm not watching this. That's it. I'm done. ECW's not for me. But it is entertaining in a kind of a car crash type way. You kind of can't look away from it.
Totally agree. There's no from here on. Where did we? From RVD, this RVD match. There's just no stop. There's no sort of time to catch your breath. I would say.
Yeah.
And I think I felt pretty exhausted by it all by the time I got to some matches. But anyway, we'll kick on with it. We had an odd. Basically, I've got written here some nonsense with Jenna Jameson. She gets a good pop for the crowd, shockingly. She says that she comes out with a microphone and says that she is the new ECW roving reporter or some shite like that. Yeah. And she wants to get an interview with Justin Credible before his match with Tommy Dreamer.
Yep.
He comes out and sort of stank faces her and says he's not interested. She gets some abuse from a guy called Jason. I don't know who Jason is that comes out with him.
I've only got Jason written as well. I think that's all he's referenced as. And
then someone else that comes out with them, I've got written down here, is absolutely fucking terrifying. And that's Nicole Bass.
Yeah.
Who we know. Well, she was in WWF, wasn't she?
Yeah, I don't know whether she's maybe under contract with them and she's been sent here for a bit of TV time and things like that, because I'm pretty sure she's already appeared at WWF at this point, but she is terrifying.
She is jacked.
Terrifying. Yeah.
So Jenna Jameson says, well, do you know what, I didn't want an interview with you anyway, I'll interview somebody that I want to interview. And Tommy Dreamer comes out and plants her with a kiss, and it's just all a bit nonsensical. But that kicks us off with our Tommy Dreamer Justin Credible match. Did you enjoy this?
I thought it was okay. I don't know what I think. I always just associate Tommy Dreamer matches as being pretty violent. To not refer to himself as the inventor of violence or something like that. But yeah, I think I always knew there was going to be some objects involved. There's definitely a chair at a point with a DDT. Quite a few weapons involved in the match early on. There's, I thought, quite a nice moment when the Tommy Dreamer hits what they call a Spicoli driver.
Yes.
Obviously as a tribute to Louis Spicoli.
Like that too.
And then there's a distraction from Jason. But just incredible. Yeah, as I said, DDT and Tommy Dreamer on a steel chair.
Reverse. He hits him a reverse DDT. It looks brutal.
Yeah.
Great.
We've got Jason and Nicole Bass providing some distraction, helping Justin Credible basically keep control of the match. We've got Beulah then walking out and seeming to align with Justin Credible. I don't know how he didn't see this coming, because I did.
I didn't.
She goes up to Justin Credible as he's standing in the ring, and then goes to sort of she has her hands on him like she's about to embrace him, and then hits him with a low blow, and then she kicks Jason.
Jason also gets one, aye.
Yeah, I don't even know who he is, and he's taking a low blow, and then a DDT, and then Nicole Bass comes in and puts her in I think a bear hug. That's the best way I can describe it.
It's effective.
Yeah, and then we've got Mikey Whipwreck, who is a bit of a ECW legend.
Yep.
I think he went ages without winning a match. He was basically a sort of really well-known jobber for a long time. He would lose his matches, but the crowd loved him because he would just keep going back for more. There was no quitting him, and he is referenced as one of the people that's been intentionally injured by Just Incredible through this run he's been having. I've got written in my notes, slightly horrified, was there nearly a Nicole Bass wardrobe malfunction?
She kind of breaks character momentarily and kind of goes ooh and sorts herself out. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that was almost too much for me that moment.
Did it not make you wonder what a jacked boob looks like? No,
I just don't want to know.
Okay. Trap, Jack Trap.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got Mikey Whipwreck taking out Nicole Bass, and then Just Incredible hitting him with one of his crutches, and then Tommy Dreamer. This has all bought him some recovery time, this interference, and he whips Just Incredible into the corner turnbuckle pretty hard, and then hits DDT for pinfall win. I thought it was quite entertaining. There's a lot of interference in it, a hell of a lot of interference in it, but I think it probably is just what I expect from a Tommy Dreamer match, to be honest.
Aye, I thought it was alright as well. You have to question Mikey Whipwreck coming out with a like a boot on, and in crutches. I don't know how effective he could possibly have been, but then again he helped his boy win, so
yeah.
Aye, it was alright, it was good. Next up on the card we had Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow, sort of big match that we've been building up to, and I have to be honest with you, Adam, I think it was at this point that I started to feel a bit exhausted. As far as the sort of constant intense action. I kind of struggled with this a little bit until Taz, and so they start off and they're just like, Taz is struggling to lift Bam Bam. Bam Bam's pretty huge, and we know that Taz is quite small compared to sort of your average wrestler. Of course he's stocky, but he's quite small, and he's struggling to lift him, and of course Taz's whole thing is that he's this human suplex machine. But they spelt it outside, and Taz looks as if he's going to try and suplex, sort of T-bone suplex Bam Bam in the crowd. And I was just thinking, he's going to try and do it and pull up and say, like my back, I can't lift him. But he doesn't. He actually T-bone suplexes him off the stage into the crowd and proper wrecks his neck on the guardrail. What the hell? That was crazy.
It looked like one way or another an injury is unavoidable with that, because Bam Bam's huge. I think it can be misleading at times because he's still pretty agile. He can still move, but I don't know what sort of weight he'd be, but he's big. And like you say, Taz, I don't know, he's not a tall guy, he's stocky. You would think he does have quite a strong neck and shoulders and all that. And it's not to say he wouldn't be a strong guy, no doubt he is, but I would never have imagined he would have been able to perform that move at all, and then it looked pretty bad in the aftermath as well.
It's almost like his neck was on the guardrail and Bam Bam sort of came down on his head. Mental. And talking about Bigelow being agile, he does a cartwheel off the top rope, which was spectacularly not very effective. But he does when he was got to top rope, I do remember him doing these he did like a diving headbutt, didn't he, when he was in WWF? And he had a few moves, and I'm sure I remembered him doing like a moonsault type thing as well in his WWE days, and he's got similar here. It's quite an interesting dynamic through the match, because I talk about how a few years ago you started getting the dueling fan chants, and here you've got
Taz, who is a babyface, but he's in Bam Bam's hometown. Bam Bam's a heel, but he's clearly got quite a significant part of the crowd. But there were some dueling chants for both men. The crowd were pretty into this match, and it was a pretty good. I thought it was hard hitting. It looked pretty stiff all the way through, and I think I've heard that is how Taz worked, and I'm pretty sure that's how Bam Bam would have worked as well. But I think that in a way kind of added to it because it felt a bit real. But yeah, it was quite entertaining. But I think it was, so much of this is set up for where they go with the finish, really.
Did the finish shock you? Or did you see it coming?
I knew this had happened in a match that featured Taz.
Ah, right, okay.
I couldn't remember that it was this match, and I couldn't remember who the opponent had been.
Right.
So when it actually happened, I was like, oh, because I've seen it in other companies, in other matches, but I don't know if it had been done before this time here. I'm not sure about that.
No, I thought it was great. I had no idea. So what happens is Taz applies the Taz mission. We have Bam, as we've said, like Taz is or Bam Bam significantly bigger than Taz.
Yeah.
So Taz has got a Taz mission on, and he ends up sort of jumping up into the piggyback position, and Bam Bam's trying to get him off, and he sort of teetering around the ring, and he throws himself back to land on top of Taz, like we've seen in lots of different matches, and instead of hitting the canvas, they actually go right through the ring. It was genuinely shocking to me, and I've wrote that down here. This was genuinely shocking.
I really enjoyed it because there's so much of this that to me felt logical. If you are the smaller guy, which Taz was, you go for a move like the Taz mission. It makes sense. You try to wear him out, you try to make him submit or make him lose all his energy and all that. If you're Bam Bam and you're the big guy and you've got someone on your back,
get him pancaked.
Such a logical thing to do.
Yeah.
When it happened, I did go, oh, and then I thought, I just loved the fact. To me, it made sense.
Yeah. So Bam Bam emerges first. I was quite taken aback at the lack of smoke or anyone with a mask on, or like a scary clown type character, Adam. But Bam Bam emerges first and pulls Taz out and pins him, which again is logical. Like, that was a horrendous bump, and we're not getting 1, 2.5 kick out, and it continues. Like, it logically finishes, which I really liked.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it hurt Taz, this defeat. And
of course he would get pinned by that. Like, it makes sense totally. And like you say, it doesn't hurt him.
Yeah.
I agree. I loved Taz here. I think I texted you, he cut this brilliant promo on the programme, which I don't think we mentioned, or it's maybe part of the package or something like that, but I really like this Taz. I never thought we got this Taz in WWF.
Yeah, and I was so optimistic because when he first appeared, they gave him the huge win over Kurt Angle. I thought, was it a Royal Rumble? I think.
Same one, 2000, I think.
And it felt like they're really going to push this guy who I hadn't really seen but I'd heard about, and I thought Angle was on a rocket to the top at that point. I think it was his first ever defeat, and the fact that they gave him a win just made me so hopeful, but they never built on that at all, unfortunately.
Tell me if I've imagined this or if I've heard this somewhere. I'm sure if I've heard it, you probably heard it. So Survivor Series 99, is that when Austin got knocked down?
Yeah, I think so.
So it was proposed. Do you know where I'm going?
Yeah, I think so.
So it was proposed that when Austin got knocked down, that the car would then slow down or slam on its brakes, and the boot would open, and orange balloons would come flying out the trunk. Am I making that up, or is that legit?
If you are making it up, You must have said it to me as well, because it's ringing a bell. Yeah.
And it was going to be Taz that knocked him down.
Yeah.
Because because a man who walks about with a black towel on his head from Red Hook, who's known as a human suplex machine, would definitely drive about with helium-filled orange balloons in his boot on the off chance he could take out Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Absolutely.
How crazy is that, eh? Like, imagine the mindset you'd have to be in to watch someone like what we've just watched and then think, do you know what would be good? I've got the perfect way to introduce him to a wider audience.
Amazing.
Fucking mental. Anyway, because of them falling through the ring, we get this really awfully staged argument between Joey Styles and Paul. Is he Dangerously at this point, or is he Heyman, or
I
Paul
think
Lee?
we just refer to him as Paul Lee. Yeah.
Buy us some time, he's saying to Jerry Styles. And eventually, sorry, were you going to say something there?
Yeah, I didn't love Heyman here. I felt, I don't know, it didn't. I felt like his side didn't work. I did quite like some of Joey Styles' pissed off reaction to everything he's being told to do, and he does go over the top with it. But I quite enjoyed it. I don't know why. I think it's just, I could see, if you're the guy that's trying to hold the show together, basically, and this side of it from the guy who's running it, who, knowing Paul Heyman, is maybe what he would do in this situation, being like, yeah, we got to keep the show running, you got to think of something, and just leaving it on poor Joey Styles. And then obviously when they come up with this solution to show the match between Sabu and Sandman that they had previously been told they couldn't show, you get a really over-the-top reaction from Joey Styles about the fact that he's not going to take the phone calls, he's not going to listen to the complaints, he's not going to, speak to all the groups and companies and all that. Heyman has to do that himself and all that. And I thought, I've heard so much over the years about the fact in ECW, nobody was just a performer, everyone had another role as well. And you talk about, I think one of the Dudleys was like, in marketing and stuff like that, there was someone who was like making posters, and it might have been Taz actually, came out with a lot of the artwork and things like that. So loads of people had two jobs, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if Joey Styles was actually the guy that Heyman would just say, can you speak to this group of unhappy parents or something like that.
Maybe that's where the balloons come from. Maybe Taz did have a flair for the dramatic.
Possibly.
So, I mean, I'm saying this is awful, and it's clearly a work and all that sort of stuff. But there was part of me, it was like, I wonder if they were genuinely supposed to go through the ring or not. I'm sure it was part of the show, but yeah, they did get me a little bit, I have to admit. So we get shown this match, this Sabu Sandman match. So whenever people, you spoke about, was it Bruce Pritchard you were talking about, saying like a lot of the time they used weapons to kind of hide how poor the wrestlers they were. He must be talking about Sandman a lot of the time.
Yeah, I would have thought so, because folk like Sabu have a lot more about them.
Sabu's brilliant.
Yeah, the athleticism and the risks he takes and everything like that. I mean, he must have influenced a hell of a lot of other workers. But yeah, Sandman, he's just this, I don't know, he's big, he's he's got his stick. He looks pissed off all the time, he's smoking, he's drinking and all that, but he's not a wrestler.
He's a stuntman, essentially.
Yeah.
He takes a hell of a beating here. I loved the whole thing of RVD being the one that comes out initially, and he's acting like Sabu. He's dressed exactly like Sabu dresses, with the kind of half baggy trousers on, and it does a really good job of distracting Sandman before Sabu can then come in and start taking over. Yeah,
I liked that as well. It kind of reminded me of, remember with Kurt Angle, was it Eric Angle?
Yeah.
His brother?
With the Lesnar thing.
something similar when he'd done the intro and the lights were down. Then he went to the corner, and then at a point, Lesnar realizes it's not him. It was well done. That's just good storytelling.
Clever,
I think. Yeah.
So eventually they get to a point where Sabu starts messing about with the guardrail, and he does a bit of redesigning, and he sort of creates himself a little corner on which he can perch a table. Really where a table shouldn't be going. And puts Sandman on the table, and I love how Sabu, there's no like theatrics, he just goes up to the top rope and jumps. There's no like oh, is he going to do it? He just goes for it. Yeah.
And I think that plays into the character. What did they refer to him as? Homicidal, genocidal, suicidal, or something like that.
Yeah.
And if the guy is willing to, take any risk going to try and do what he feels needs to be done, and also there is a logic to it as well, because why would you wait? Why would you give the guy an opportunity to move?
Totally.
And Sabu, with the type he is, he's done all these moves before. He's always going to take the risk. So I think it plays well into him. And you're right, he's up there and then he's down straight away.
Yeah. There's a bit in this match where they're over the other side of the ring, and they're on this stage that runs to the ring, and they're dueling out with some crazy violence. And I just looked in the crowd, and there's this guy in a pair of shades laughing away at himself, and he's got like what appears to be like a 7-year-old boy with him. And they're right in the front row, and I remember thinking like no, yes, because how amazing would that be to be that kid? But I don't think this is an appropriate environment for a kid. The guy looks like he's absolutely loving life. It's class. Do you know who? Did you notice him in the crowd?
I didn't. I wish I had. Do you think in that type of situation, the guy's just said to the mum of the kid, "We're going to the cinema. They're showing all the Jurassic Parks back to back or something like that," and then he's like, "Now we're going to go to an ECW show. Don't tell your mum."
Oh God! They get a phone call for his school, and the kid's been pointing to the sky and chucking his classmates through tables. This is just this has got a brilliant end to it. RVD, the referee takes like a really terribly choreographed bump where he's like holding a table up for there's no logical reason why he's holding that table up, but he takes a bump, and RVD comes back out, and he hits his 5-star frog splash on Sandman. They're back on the outside, and RVD and Sabu on the top ropes, Sandman's on a table on the outside on this stage, and they just hit a double leg drop through the table, and it's absolutely brutal. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it was a great finish, and you want it to be, because of the character Sandman is, you want it to be something big that takes him out, because much as he's limited in ring and all that, he's another one of those that they want to show that he doesn't have any quit in him. He's just going to keep going. So it made sense for it to be the unfair advantage of the 2-on-1, and then it's one of the best for. Remember in the old days when you had tag teams like the Rockers, and we then went years without really seeing real choreographed moves. I thought it looked like it was two guys that worked together all the time.
Yeah.
The timing on it was brilliant.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Did Sandman ever get working in WWF, or I don't really remember.
I only remember, I think he was involved in the one night stand, maybe the first two.
Right, okay.
But I'm not sure if he ever signed up when they relaunched.
Right. No surprising, but
yeah.
Sorry, Sandman, giving you a bit of shit, but I'm sure. Hopefully, please don't come and hit us with your stick, as Adam said. So that, I mean, at this point in time, the show's been pretty intense, and we're now sort of building up towards the main event. But I feel like the main event kind of falls short. Like if you'd finished off with Bam Bam v Taz and then the Sabu v Sandman, it would have been a good show. But here we go. We've got Chris Candido and Shane Douglas versus Lance Storm and his mystery partner.
Yeah.
As Candido and Douglas are walking out, so sorry, I should set the scene. Al Snow is supposed to have had a match, but because of I don't know who he was supposed to be fighting, but Al Snow's supposed to have had a match. Because of the hole in the ring shenanigans, they've had to cancel that match. So all throughout the crowd, there are lots, pretty much everybody in the crowd has got like a polystyrene head. So as Candido and Douglas are walking out, somebody cracks Francine square in the face with one of these heads. It's absolutely brilliant. She does really, really well just to not even acknowledge it as class. But the crowd are going absolutely mad with these heads. I assume Al Snow was pretty over here.
Yeah, I think he must have been. I mean, I can't think of what his timeline would have been in terms of WWE work here. Because I remember he went through a whole programme with, I think it was The King, who was going to get him signed, but then, was just using him for his own purposes and stuff like that. And I can't think here whether he's actually had a bit of a WWE run, or if that's still to come. I'm not sure. He's
definitely due to go to WWF soon. I think maybe, did they say their next pay-per-view's like WrestlePalooza or something like that?
Yeah.
I think he goes after that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's so many of the heads in the crowd, and they've handed them out obviously, so everyone's got them, but I suppose the fact people are actually holding them up, and it is just a demonstration at that point of how over they must have been. Yeah. So
we get the whole mystery is who's going to be the tag team partner, Lance Storm, and Sunny grabs the mic. She's wearing a big long jacket to sort of conceal what she's wearing, and in her very dramatic sort of way as she speaks, she pulls her coat off to reveal that she's wearing wrestling gear, and she said that she is Lance Storm's partner, and Jerry Styles is on commentary is thinking this is a brilliant move because Candido's never going to touch her, he's not going to let Shane Douglas touch her, so great move by Sonny and Storm.
Yeah, I wasn't so sold as Joey was there, because all I was thinking was, so basically it's a 2-on-1 handicap
it's a handicap match, and that's exactly what then happens. They start beating on Storm. Shane Douglas has got a Boston Crab on Storm, and Candido grabs the mic, and this feels a bit like a Raw or a Nitro sort of segment rather than the main event of a match. But anyway, Candido's saying, what is it that you're, what does he say, what are you going to do to me, what are you going to give me,
where his ass kicking is, or something like that. Yeah.
Eventually he says, what are you going to give me, which is a weird phrase, but obviously Storm in the Boston Crab then says head, and the lights go off and Al Snow's crazy music comes on. I don't know what the music is, it's probably dubbed over. And we see head emerge from in between the curtain, just like sort of getting jumped up and down like heads having a dance, and then Al Snow comes out. The crowd goes absolutely mad, and Jerry Styles is like, this is brilliant, he knew all along. It's all a bit like, is this, sorry, I missed Sonny turning on Lance Storm, didn't I?
They do a bit of a predictable turn, so predictable that he himself, Lance Storm, knew it was going to happen. She tags in, Francine gets in her face. She then kind of hits Lance Storm from behind, but then poor Sonny, she kind of half falls into the hole that's in the ring in the corner. That's kind of really badly segmented off that they're not supposed to work in at all. But yeah, poor woman half falls into it.
Is this when she's got the biscuit tray, the cookie tray thing? Is this during this match? And she kind of completely fluffs it. Yeah, no.
I've not got it in my notes, but it could be.
Yeah, so it basically turned around that Al Snow is going to end up being Lance Storm's partner. Lance Storm knew that Sonny would screw him, so he had another partner waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, go figure. Snowplow from Al Snow. As he hits somebody with a snowplow. I can't remember who it was. But at this point, I've stopped writing notes. Shane Douglas, is it?
Who also falls a little bit into the hole in the ring. But I think that may have been more intentional. At
this point, the fans just go, fuck it, and start filling the ring with these polystyrene heads.
Yeah.
And you can barely see anything. It looks like it's snowing on the pay-per-view. Which is just out of control.
Yeah, it's... I quite liked... You get Candido, Sonny, Francine... all throwing the polystyrene heads out of the ring, but they're just filling more and more and more. And Al Snow leaves through the crowd. And then there's a nice sign-off line by Joey Styles at the end, where he says, "For now, we're all getting head in Asbury Park."
Wow. Well played, Jerry. How do you find this overall? Sounds like you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. There are some ups and downs. We talked about the slow start. Through everything with the RVD and the Scorpio match, that was good. That was just a really, really good match. The spots, some of the moments in the New Jack and Spike dive from the balcony. Quite enjoyed Tommy Dreamer and Just Incredible. I liked the story behind Taz and Bam Bam, and what happened in the ring. A bit like you, I think this being on last, it felt like we'd already hit the peak of the show, and then this maybe should have been a bit earlier. But it's obviously a big storyline they're going with. I looked into it a little bit, and Lance Storm was at a point aligned with the triple threat. They basically threw him out to incorporate Bam Bam into the group.
Okay.
So there is, a good reason behind the animosity within the group. When I was looking at it as well, I realised it was in a previous run, but the original triple threat was apparently Shane Douglas, Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit. Yeah,
I saw that as well, and they were going for a kind of Four Horsemen type vibe.
Yeah, which I kind of wish I'd seen a bit of, because that sounds pretty cool. Yeah. But generally enjoyed the show. I thought there was a lot of good. There's some not so good in there, but thought it was outweighed by what was good. Good entertainment.
Yeah, agreed. I think you could watch this in isolation and enjoy it without knowing what's going on. They do a good job of sort of filling you in. Certainly Jerry Styles does a good job of filling you in about what's happened.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it as well. It was good fun.
Yeah.
And the following night was pretty much a recap with still image highlights of the pay-per-view. I don't know if it's the following night, but the following show. Yeah,
it's that's what almost all of it is. We do have, there's a couple of segments. You've got Paul Heyman, who's talking about the fact that Candido and Storm are tag champs. He's not going to strip them of the title just because they don't get along.
Right.
The reason they're tag champs is because nobody's been able to beat them, and the only way it's going to change hands is in the ring. He says the pair will defend their belts, and I quite like this because again it's adding just a little bit of logic to it. He says that if there's a swerve, whoever turns on their partner will be fired.
Ooh.
Which, because it's so obvious that there would be a swerve in a match between two tag champs that don't like each other. So I don't know where that goes and who they end up against, but that's one of the only two, I think, original things that were on the show. The other one right at the end was a segment, a sort of interview segment with the triple threat. Shane Douglas is kind of, he must have had a little bit of an altercation with Taz about what the more important belt was.
Ooh.
And basically he's saying, well, it doesn't really matter anymore because the triple threat have got the belts now. He talks about how Al Snow has stumbled into no man's land, calls him a gimmick wrestler that doesn't belong in ECW. He's a really good talker in this, actually. Douglas says that the reason he started this company, now I know he was the guy that threw down the old belt and declared the new belt, the ECW Extreme Championship Wrestling title. So I suppose that did mark a big change for the company. But he refers to himself as the guy that started this company and dragged them into pay-per-view world. But now Al Snow has got in his head, no pun intended, I don't think, and he wants to know who the better man is, so he challenges Al Snow to a match.
Okay. How could WWF or WCW not make that Shane Douglas character work?
Yeah, I don't know, and it does make me wonder, because it's working so well as this character here, and Triple H is probably just starting to become this similar type at this stage. It does make me wonder if he would have had a big influence in not wanting Shane Douglas to get over in WWE, because I mean he had a run as, was it Dean Douglas, where he was playing a dean, or somebody involved in the running of a educational institution, but that doesn't seem to fit at all when you see what he's capable of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I don't think it worked massively for him in WCW either, and I know that I think he had some issues with Ric Flair. I don't think
really?
they got on, and I suppose if you're in WCW and you don't get on with Flair, that's probably not going to work out that well for you.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is, because he's kind of got everything. When you hear him and see him like this, he's a good worker. He's got a promo. If you put him in the right storylines, I don't think there's any doubt he could make it work.
Interesting to see where this goes. I think the next pay-per-view is May, so we'll catch up with what's going on there. I hope that sounds like we're getting little breadcrumbs off a Taz Shane Douglas feud somewhere down the road. That'd be nice. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Oh well. That was extreme.
Yeah.
It was incredibly extreme, Adam. From extreme to WrestleMania.
Is that where we are next? I never actually looked to see what was next.
That's where we're going next. WrestleMania 14 will be next for us.
Cool.
And we have briefly broken that down, but we'll do the go home Raw, and we'll do the night after, and the night after is a good Raw. Yeah.
Now, I think you mentioned we've briefly broke this down before, which would have been in our top 5 WrestleManias. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But I think what we'll try to do with this is put a bit of a different spin on it, because we were going match by match, but we're going to try and get into the storylines around each match and each key performer. So hopefully looking at it from a bit of a different angle and digging a little bit deeper into those, which will be good.
Definitely, can't wait. Looking forward. It's certainly not a chore to have to watch that WrestleMania again, and it's been a while certainly since I've seen the sort of build up and aftermath. So that'd be great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, give us a shout on Instagram at Outlaws Pod if you are an extremist.
You're going to get some interesting stuff going your way.
Please don't do that. That's not what we're looking for. If you enjoy the Extreme Championship Wrestling, give us a shout. Otherwise, we'll be back for episode 17 with WrestleMania 14. So take it easy. Adam, what's the score?
The score is Italy 1, Spain 0. Very nice goal by Chiesa about 6-7 minutes ago.
Nice. How far into it are we?
70 minutes played.
Nice.
Yep.
Oh well. Forza Italia.
Yeah.
Yes. See you for episode 17. Adam, take it easy until then.
Cheers.